Good afternoon, everybody. We're here today with my colleagues, Leader Ryan Spain and Leader Dan Ugaste, to announce legal and legislative actions aimed at ending the unethical and frankly illegal practice of partisan gerrymandering in Illinois. Illinois State House district maps are the product of extreme partisan gerrymandering. Drawn by the party in power, these maps are designed to entrench Illinois Democrats in control while silencing the voices of voters who support the minority party. The result? Rigged outcomes in general elections. This practice isn't just bad policy, it's fundamentally wrong. It's unfair to Republicans, to Democrats, and to independents. Every Illinois voter deserves a fair voice in our elections. Partisan gerrymandering robs voters of this right by allowing politicians to manipulate district lines for their own benefit. Instead of voters choosing their representatives, partisan gerrymandering flips that process, letting representatives choose their voters. This practice is no secret. A federal court has acknowledged it. The map maker of the Illinois Democrat Party has admitted it. The legislative history confirms it, and Democrats' redistricting plan, with its distorted and contorted districts, proves it. In addition to being terrible public policy, extreme partisan gerrymandering is unconstitutional. The Illinois Constitution is clear on this matter. All elections shall be free and equal, and legislative districts must be compact. Illinois House Republicans refuse to stand by while Democrats rig elections and manipulate the system to maintain their grip on power. It is time to expose this for what it really is: cheating. The U.S. Supreme Court has placed the responsibility of addressing partisan gerrymandering on the states. States like Pennsylvania and North Carolina have already stepped up, striking down redistricting plans that violate their constitutional principles. Here in Illinois, we have the tools to demonstrate the depth of the Democrats' corruption. Their enacted map is not just a little corrupt, it may be one of the most corrupt in American history. We are asking the Illinois Supreme Court to act. Plaintiffs are requesting the court to 1, declare the Democrats' redistricting plan invalid under the Illinois Constitution. 2, enjoin the State Board of Elections from enforcing this unconstitutional map. And 3, appoint a special master to draft a new, fair redistricting plan that complies with constitutional requirements. It's time to restore faith in our democratic process and give power back to the people. Now I'm going to hand it off to Leader Dan Ugaste.
Thank you, Leader McCombie. I'm Dan Ugaste, representative from the 65th District, which is outside of Chicago and Kane and DuPage counties. As a formerly practicing attorney, I will give you a few highlights of what the lawsuit is that is being filed as we speak. First, the suit's being filed in the Supreme Court as they have original jurisdiction under our Constitution. As such, we filed a motion for them to accept the case, and it's a compelling motion. Next, the basis for our suit is twofold, coming from one unacceptable outcome. The voters of Illinois are being disenfranchised by the current maps. The first basis is it alleges the current enacted map violates the compactness rules contained in Article 4, Section 3 of the Illinois Constitution, which states that all districts must be compact and contiguous. Second, the current map is so overly gerrymandered for partisan purposes that it violates Article 3, Section 3 of the Illinois Constitution, stating that all elections must be free and equal. Since arriving in the House, I have been a strong advocate for fair map redistricting and reforms that we need in order to make government reflect the will of our voters. I support expanding recall election for all elected officials, strong ethics reform, and changing the corrupt way the Democrats have perverted the system to draw legislative maps in Illinois, which provide them with what our expert witness, Dr. Joey Chen, describes as an insurance policy for House Democrats. As is demonstrated in Dr. Chen's report, this means the better a statewide Republican does in an election, the more seats the Democrats will gain in the House of Representatives. Therefore, the more effective their gerrymander is. The recently completed election cycle made clear how successful the Democrat overreach from their partisan gerrymandering really was. Of the 2024 House elections, Democrat candidates won only 55% of the statewide vote, but Democrat candidates won a supermajority of the seats, 78 of 118, or 66.1%. Still, the 2022, the prior election cycle, was even worse. Then Republican candidates in the Illinois House won a majority of the votes in the election, 50.9% of the statewide vote. But Republican candidates, again, only won a third of the seats in the House, 40 of 118. The exact same number as 2024 when not a single seat changed. With this level of entrenched dominance, it's unsurprising that almost half, 54 out of 118 of the state House elections in Illinois were uncontested this last cycle. For would-be Republican candidates in artificially safe Democrat districts, there's no point in running. The same goes for would-be Democrat candidates in districts that are artificially packed with Republicans. The volume of uncontested races means that almost half of the state representatives will represent Illinoisans, not because they were elected and had to present their policy ideas to voters through debate and outreach, but only because they submitted the right paperwork to the State Board of Elections. This is not our system of government. Extreme partisan gerrymandering like this is poisonous to a functioning democracy. Because of these maps, Illinoisans no longer has a say in what their government does. Now be clear, this action we're filing is not without precedent. I wanted to show you this first exhibit here, which is a map that shows a district from the Schrage case, which was a 1981 Illinois Supreme Court case. This shows district number 89 of that House map that was originally drawn. And what we have is a district that the Illinois Supreme Court in 1981 looked at and says, we know this is not compact. And they said, you have to go back and redraw the map because this is not per the Illinois Constitution. Currently, as you will see in Dr. Chen's report that's attached to the complaint, 52 out of 118 House districts do not meet the Supreme Court's prior holding on what constitutes a compact district. This cannot be allowed to stand. The Illinois Supreme Court needs to accept this case and find the current maps must be redrawn in order to guarantee free and fair elections. Every voter must have a say in who represents him in the House instead of Democrat legislators selecting which voters they will represent. Please allow me to be clear about my motives in joining and advocating for Leader McCombie's legal challenge. I personally stand to lose a pretty good seat under the current enacted map. I am here today because as legislators, we need to do the right thing, regardless of the electoral outcomes for our districts. We must unrig this racket that has been created. Speaker Welch is fond of saying, winners do the work. Yet, he has participated in creating a system where those who do the work may not win. Ladies and gentlemen, voters should choose their elected officials, not the other way around. That, Deputy Leader Ryan Spain will be our next speaker.
Well, thank you, Leader Ugaste, and thank you, Leader McCombie, for bringing this challenge forward to the Illinois Supreme Court. Good afternoon. I'm State Representative Ryan Spain. I live in Peoria. You know, as it is usually the case in Illinois, when we talk about major legal actions, this court case is focused on absolute power and absolute corruption. This case will prove to the Illinois Supreme Court with evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that legislative maps violate the Illinois Constitution. I served on the House Redistricting Committee, and I can tell you that time and again, the sponsor of legislative maps misrepresented the compactness of legislative maps and then repeatedly admitted on the record that maps were drawn for partisan political advantage. As you've heard, the court has already ruled on the requirement for legislative districts to be compact. In this Schrage case that we call it, shown on the previous document, the court establishes what a minimum standard would be for compactness. Today, as Leader Ugaste said, 52 out of 118 districts violate that minimum compactness standard that the court in Illinois has already determined. So why is that? Our case provides the evidence. First, we have proven that there is no need to violate the compactness clause of the Illinois State Constitution. Our evidence shows a possible map that protects Section 2 districts. Those are the majority-minority districts that are part of the Federal Voting Rights Act. We protect those districts and provide a minimum compactness floor that is above and beyond the decision by the Supreme Court in the Schrage case. Our evidence proves this, and in fact, we weren't able to create just one map that complies with the Voting Rights Act and is also compact and contiguous, but we created 10,000 maps that uphold those important standards that map makers have failed to deliver in the state of Illinois. Because this current House map has 52 districts that measure less compact, the map should be overturned. That's the first count in our complaint to the Supreme Court. Our expert witness has said, we have perhaps the most uncompact map that has ever been seen in the nation. But that's not all. Why are these maps not compact? In this court case, in our second count, we prove again, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the outcomes seen in 2022 and 2024 in the Illinois House are statistically impossible to create without violation of the Free and Equal Elections Clause. And what's most sinister about the Democrats' map, the better the performance of a statewide Republican through the use of cracking, packing, and diluting voters, as you can see in this top chart, the more effective the gerrymander is for Democrats. I'll say that one more time. It'll be the third time then for emphasis. The Democrats' gerrymander is most effective when there is a strong Republican running at the top of the ticket. We are filing this lawsuit now, as quickly as possible after the recent election, to allow the court to review this compelling evidence that we've offered to invalidate the map well before the 2026 election cycle begins. The results of the 2022 election and certainly the 2024 election, where not one seat changed at all in the legislature, shows the urgency of bringing this matter forward before the Supreme Court. You know, Leader Ugaste just referred to an anecdote that we hear around this building a lot about winners do the work. And I got to tell you, it rings so hollow. And as a parent of two young daughters, when I talk about winning, I say to my kids, winners never cheat and cheaters never win. I wish that were the case in the state of Illinois. We're filing this lawsuit to make it so. Thank you. Any questions?
What hope do you have that a majority Democrat Supreme Court will accept this case?
We have very high hope. We think we respect all members of the Supreme Court. I would mention that the court looks quite a bit different than it did the last time a redistricting matter came before the Illinois Supreme Court. That was in 2016 when a ballot initiative was overturned. Justice Tom Kilbride wrote the deciding opinion on a 4-3 basis to really thwart the efforts of citizens to bring about a change to their government. There's only one justice who's still on the court today, and a lot of new people that I hope are free from some of the influence that we've seen in the past. So we're very optimistic that the court will do the right thing, especially with the compelling evidence that's being presented.
That's fine.
I take it I'm lost on this idea that the better a Republican does, the more Democrats get elected. Can you?
I can try and do that.
Slowly
Good
for me?
afternoon, everybody.
Sure.
We're here
Sure,
today
Fiona.
with my colleagues, leader.
So this chart is a plot of 118 districts throughout the state, the Illinois House. This is a continuum of all 118 districts. The most Democratic districts are located in the bottom left. The most Republican or conservative districts are in the top right. And then the most competitive districts are in the middle of the chart. And so what happens here is that voters have been diluted through the drawing of maps, primarily that start in the city of Chicago and then emanate into other locations. These votes have been diluted so that they are effectively spoiled. These votes are packing of Republican votes in areas where there's an oversaturation of those votes. When you have a strong election, probably the strongest election over the last 10 years for Republicans was Rauner 2014. Donald Trump also had a really good election cycle relatively, in November. So what happens is you see a swelling of these red areas in those cases, and then a contraction of the blue zone in the middle. But the idea is to create enough cushion here that you block any ability to gain seats here in the middle, and then you waste these votes, both at the lower part of the graph and then the upper right corner. It's a masterful gerrymandering. It really is some of the most sinister work that we've seen any place in the country. And so it has the net effect of when you have a very strong performance at the top of the ticket, you'll say, why don't we have any corresponding gains in the legislature? This is the reason why.
The coattails result in the winning Republicans winning by bigger margins.
It blocks the coattails, yeah.
Leader McCombie, reaction today to the order from the White House that freezes federal funding for in federal grants. We've heard a lot from the governor's office and from our congressional representation. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on the way that the president has gone about this.
Well, we're here to discuss the map, but I'll just say it's a temporary freeze to analyze. And as we've heard, it was reported improperly and the debate on the floor was inaccurate today because it does not include Medicaid, SNAP, or the Pell Grant. So, but we would like to stick to the map today.
The constitutional amendment, I assume, spells out what kind of system you'd like to have, or does it? What, if it does, how does it work?
So actually, all it requests is what's happened in a number of other states throughout the country up until this point where these cases have been resolved, and that is that a special master be appointed by the court, where the court oversees it and ensures that a fair map is in fact drawn, that complies with all the standards in our Constitution, contiguous, compact, of equal voting district size.
Oh, so the system that would ostensibly rewrite this map would continue? I mean, you'd have a special master?
You'd have a special master going forward, though, for the next census. It's unless we change the law somehow, unless there's a change to our Constitution, it would stay with the legislature drawing the maps.
All right.
This is just a remedy for this particular map during this particular census cycle.
Just a clarifying question, but obviously in some of those other states, I mean, state constitutions are all a little bit different. But you all are saying that there are similar provisions in Illinois' constitution.
Well, actually,
other states.
yeah, I'm sorry, I should have let you finish your question. My apology.
Yeah.
Actually, Pennsylvania has the exact same clause we do, and in 2017, a suit was filed for the prior census cycle where the court found, Democrats actually filed the suit, that their congressional maps were not compact enough to comply with their fair and equal election clause, and they ordered a redrawing of those maps.
So that's the interpretation.
Yeah, so what they said in that case essentially was, and I'm paraphrasing now, so don't hold me to the exact letter of the law. And as being an attorney, I like being a bit more precise, but I'm going to paraphrase a little. They have the exact same clause in their Constitution. North Carolina has a very similar one, and in some initial decisions in that state did the same thing. Again, Democrats filing against Republicans, though, in that state. And basically, they said these are not free and equal elections. Voters don't have an equal voice throughout the state. Some voters' votes count for a lot, and some matter none because of the way the districts have been drawn.
And I guess another clarifying question, but I believe in 2021, Leader Durkin and Leader McCombie filed a lawsuit in federal court, and I believe they ruled that the district had to be redrawn, but it let the legislature do it. But now you're filing in state court because you have all this evidence, right? That's why you didn't do it in state court a few years ago.
Right. So the original lawsuit was in 2021 in federal court. We won in the first round. The maps had to be drawn. Remember that we didn't even have the census yet. I mean, this was all a workaround to prevent having any type of independent commission coming forward, bipartisan commission. So eventually in December of 2021, the federal courts upheld that map, and then we were off to the races in the 2022 cycle. Since that time, we have been working on this initiative, and the results of the election in 2022 were particularly outrageous. I mean, that's what really was the catalyst for me to be so animated about this issue. You're going to have more votes received for all your candidates statewide and only get to a third of the composition of the legislature. It's just unacceptable. It shows you the depth of the gerrymandering here, only to preserve power in the most corrupt type of way. So we're able to bring this claim forward now directly to the Supreme Court on items that are not included in the United States Constitution, only in our state and many other states' constitutions, compactness and the free and equal, no partisan gerrymandering clause.
Just to clarify, if you win the case, you're saying it would go back to the legislatures to redistrict?
We think that would be a bad idea. So we're recommending and asking the courts that a special master be appointed, someone that could function with impartiality. I mean, again, we disagree strongly that elected officials should be choosing their own voters, whether it was in 2021 or now in 2025. And then what we hope is that we can resolve this map, have a map that is created through a court order that would be in compliance with the Illinois Constitution. And then, yes, we will continue to work on changes in the future, because we can't get to the year 2031 and do this same thing all over again. You see what the results look like for the people of Illinois.
So what would it look like if, this person that is, nonpartisan, how would that guy get the position? Would it go through the legislature? Would it be a hiring?
No, it would be a decision by the Supreme Court. They would make that selection. But I would offer, we have 10,000 available maps that have been created that protect majority-minority districts and are fully in compliance with compactness and contiguity in our state constitution.
On the same wavelength, Leader McCombie, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. We don't want to wait till 2031. Why is it so important to act now rather than the next remap?
Well, like Leader Spain said, this is not something that just came up. This is something that's been worked on for quite some time since the last election, and now we have more evidence proving that it's time to do that. So it's not about, my district, as you may or may not remember, I flipped a Democrat seat and now have a very nice red seat. So this could hurt some of us that do have, that are at I don't know where that fun thing is here at the top. But it's about all voters should have a voice, and whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent. And we have to fight the fights we can win right now. And this is one that we feel we can win. And it will protect the process and hopefully amend the process for an independent and fair map next cycle. Like he said, we can't wait, and we might not even be there, and it's like recreating the wheel all over again. So it's very important that we act now to handle this.
So if you prevail, there'll be a new election, new map, new election before the next election cycle, or it would wait till the next election cycle.
Okay, two things. I want to just add one thing to the prior question. Keep in mind that with every census, there's 5 election cycles. We've had 2. There's 3 out there still. So there's 3 election cycles still to go. No, we're not asking for a special election. We're asking for a new map for the next election. And for the court to do that, they're probably going to set an expedited docket. I don't know for sure. The court controls their own docket, and I'm not going to try and tell them what to do, but they control their docket, timing, speed, everything. My guess is they'll want to get it done before petitions start and make that decision of what's going to happen, and we'll be looking at the 2026 election cycle as our next one that would have a different map should they invalidate these maps and ask a special master to redraw.
Are you bringing this case, this is for you guys,
Oh.
are you bringing this case on behalf of Illinois people or? Illinois
So
versus
the plaintiffs are Leader McCombie as the leader in the House under the Constitution, as well as 5 individuals from various places within Illinois, and they live in districts that the gerrymander is unbelievable, according to compactness scores.
Should there be a law or constitution at the federal level to basically prevent partisan gerrymandering? I know there was a lot of talk about that a few years ago. To basically do away with it everywhere instead of having, blue states fight to draw as blue of a map as possible and red states do the same in the opposite direction.
Gerrymandering is wrong. End of sentence. Stop. It should be permanently ended in every place in the country.
Have you guys filed an amendment to prepare maps this session?
Yes, it's. I think that's what you're looking at. It's House Joint Resolution Constitutional Amendment 5.
And that would change the process? Or-
That would be for the next, after the next census in 2031, the process, it would create an independent commission to replace our current process of having an entrenched supermajority draw their own maps in a secret map room.
Would Republicans have the majority in both houses under a fair map?
I think that, it depends, right? It depends on the election cycle, the strength of the candidates running at a district level, and certainly at the top of the ticket, the national climate. All of those are variables. So I can't answer that. It's possible, yes. But that's not really the point. Even if there was no change to the partisan allocation here in the Illinois House, things are not working. We are not empowering voters to make decisions on what their government should look like and how it works. So something has to change. And whether it's the partisan allocation of the legislature or the type of people that are elected to the legislature and the type of requirements that they request from their leadership, we should be able in Illinois at any time to work together across the aisle and put together 60 votes on a common sense bill and pass it upstairs in the House. As you know, that's not allowed under the current leadership in the Illinois House. And gerrymandering is the reason why.
So, just to add quickly, legislators would become much more accountable no matter what the makeup of the General Assembly is. They'd have to be more accountable because each district would more than likely become more competitive. Not all, but many more.
All right, thanks everyone.